President Obama was in Europe on a so-called reassurance tour to reassure particularly allies in Eastern Europe and Central Europe and the Baltic states as a result of Russia's increasingly aggressive moves after annexation of Crimea and its increasingly aggressive moves in eastern Ukraine, despite the fact that some troops have been moved back from the border. President Obama has pledged stepped-up military maneuvers to reassure NATO allies, has pledged $1 billion. Do you think he's succeeding from the French point of view? From your point of view, is President Obama doing enough?
We are working very well and very closely together, the French, the Americans, and our other friends and allies. You know, vis-à-vis Russia, I think from day one, we together promoted an approach based on two pillars. The first pillar is firmness. We support and will continue to support Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. That's why we refused the Russian fait accompli there. You know, we cannot accept to open the Pandora's box of violating borders in Europe and around the world. It would mean the demise of any international order. That's number one. And number two, firmness, but also dialogue. From the very beginning, we've also fought together with our American friends to keep open the channels of communication with Russia in order to initiate de-escalation, in order to make the elections possible, and in order to have Russia and Ukraine around the table discussing together not only gas and oil, but also, you know, the political future of Ukraine. And today, I would say that we Europeans have taken the lead in terms of supporting Ukraine. For example, we put on the table a $15 billion financial package to support the sovereignty, the economic recovery of Ukraine. And on this, we are working, again, the US, Europe, and our other friends and allies very closely together.
On the other hand, one could say there is a little bit of daylight between Europe and the United States on Ukraine. I think the United States would like to see greater cooperation. Of course, France in particular went ahead with a sale of a couple of warships to Russia worth $1.6 billion. This caused some friction between the United States and France. What are your thoughts with regard to the sale of these warships, and do you think that is counterproductive?
You know, this is a contract or an order dating back 2011. As you know, in our system, when there is a contract, it has to be implemented. But the thing is that in any case, the question will not arise until October of this year, which is the anticipated date of delivery of these ships. So it's not an urgent question for tomorrow morning. The urgent question for us, and again, where we are working very closely together, is to at the same time address a very strong, firm message to Russia, and at the same time to support Ukraine and to engage into a political dialogue between Russia and Ukraine. This is the emergency of the day. And that's why after the election, the recent elections in Ukraine, we are working hard with the president of this country, but also with President Putin and Russia, to renew a dialogue leading to a stronger Ukraine preserved in its sovereignty. That's the number one priority that we have. And again, on this, we are completely, very closely together.
Ambassador Delattre, what if Russia continues to destabilize eastern Ukraine? What other steps should be taken, in your view, to stabilize the situation? At what point do you think more sanctions might be warranted?
That's something that we have in mind when I mentioned the two pillars, firmness and dialogue. Regarding the first pillar, sanction, we together, Europeans and Americans alike, have in mind that if indeed Russia continues trying to destabilize the southern part of Ukraine too, then we'll have to consider another step in terms of sanctions. But then we'll have to be fair and to look at military sanctions, financial sanctions, sanctions in the field of energy, so that we are all on the same boat, united, and so that we increase the cost vis-à-vis Russia and not vis-à-vis Europe or vis-à-vis the United States.
Of course, it's very notable that the new president of Ukraine was invited to the,
yes.
The commemoration in Normandy. He's very pro-European, Petro Poroshenko. He would like to sign an association agreement, the one that previous President Yanukovych turned down. Do you foresee a day when such an agreement could be signed between Ukraine and...
The short answer is yes. The short answer is yes. We hope the conditions will be met for him, for the new president of Ukraine, to sign this agreement in the foreseeable future.